regular session on Tuesday, January 5th, 2021 at 9:05 a.m. in the Grand Courtroom via online Zoom with 3 members present. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As a notice to the public, the Board of Supervisors welcomes comments from the public during the time allowed for discussion. You are requested to approach the microphone, state your name for the record, and limit the time used to present your remarks in order that others may be given an opportunity to speak. The normal process on any agenda item is for the chairperson to read the item from the agenda. The board is given an opportunity to comment on the issue and/or place a motion on the floor. An opportunity for discussion may be presented, at which time the public may participate and a roll call vote will follow. The city's right on time with their alarm, aren't they?
Wow. Yeah.
Item 1 on our agenda this morning, approval or amendment of the agenda. Entertain motions, please.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
And Mr. Chair, I'd second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as printed. Any discussion? Okay, there being none, roll call vote, please.
Patton,
Yes.
Slosik,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Moving on to item 2 in our agenda is the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes from regular session of January 4th, 2021. And approved claims. Approved claims is audited and authorize the county auditor and recorder to issue payment of the same. The listings of claims paid at this meeting and all claims paid in the month of January will be published as part of the first meeting in February. Entertain motions on the consent agenda, please.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the consent agenda as printed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? There being none, roll call vote, please.
Patton,
Yes.
Slosik,
Yes.
Thompson.
Motion carries. Item 4 on our agenda this morning, and we're going to have several housekeeping areas that are going to involve the county engineer. These are things that we do annually. Paul, are you with us this morning?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Okay. For just timeliness, you want to kind of go over all of these resolutions that we're going to have and give a brief explanation, or do you want to do them one by one?
However you like is fine with me.
Let's do them all together. Let's catch the moving resolution first.
Our moving permit resolution is just an annual resolution that names the employees in my department that can issue oversized, overweight permits for vehicles that are larger than what the legal limits are on the system. It's just permits for county roads, so we don't issue permits to go through like the city of Marshalltown or on any state roads. They have to get separate permits for those things.
Okay. And
the blanket road closure just is the board giving me permission to close the road without their prior approval if we have to close something, and that we can deal with it on the next meeting. And that's just something we put in there annually. It's something we rarely use, but it is there for us.
well, it's come up when we've had flooding events in the middle of the evening and you've had to shut down a road.
Yeah, and in many cases like that, I would close a road and then it could potentially even be open before the next regular meeting. So that's, the whole thing could be done and gone before we had a meeting. So that's why why this is something that makes sense. We don't have to have a bunch of emergency board meetings.
Okay. Then we got a couple others, the certificate of completion and the embargo signs.
Yes, and the certificate of completion is just authorizing me to accept projects on behalf of the Board of Supervisors as complete and built according to specification. And the embargo signs it's similar to the road closure. If I need to put a weight limit on a road just because of the conditions, I can do it immediately without board approval.
Okay, thank you. That being said, in those brief explanations, because these are housekeeping items, let's go on to resolution number 2021-0002, which is the one concerning moving permits. I'll entertain motions, please.
I'd make a motion to approve resolution number 2021-0002, moving permits.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd second that.
Okay, I'm going to make one small correction. We adopt it.
We adopt.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, go.
So if that's okay.
I'm new here, so please give
Okay,
me.
adopt is fine.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2021. Any further discussion? There being none, roll call vote, please.
Patton,
Yes.
Slosik,
Yes.
Thompson.
Motion carries. Item 5 is the resolution number 2021-0003, blanket road closure. Entertain motions on that also.
Actually, I have 2020
Yes.
-0003.
I think there's been a corrected agenda.
Yeah, the
That Lisa
agenda that
sent
went
out.
out went
Really?
Sent
2021.
out second time.
Thank you.
On mine, it's 2021-0003.
And that would make sense.
Yep,
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I would move to adopt the resolution 2021-0003.
And I would second.
okay. We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2021-0003. Any further discussion?
I will note that in the motion, we need to fix to 2021.
Yep, I did that on mine, but in the resolution
The resolution's
is numbered
okay,
correctly.
but in the motion part here, it still
Yes,
said
understand.
2020.
Yep.
So I've corrected that, so it'll be updated in minutes.
All right. Roll call vote, please.
Patton,
Yes.
Slosik,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Item 6, resolution number 2021-0004, and this is a certificate of completion.
I would make a motion to adopt resolution number 2021-0004.
And I'd second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt. Any further discussion? There being none, roll call vote, please.
Patton,
Yes.
Slosik,
Yes.
Thompson.
Okay. We got one more. Item number 7, resolution 2021-0005, erecting sign embargoes. Entertain motions.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to adopt resolution 2021-0005.
And I will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2021-0005. Any further discussion? There being none, roll call vote, please.
Patton,
Yes.
Slosik,
Yes.
Thompson.
Okay, motion carries. Item 8 on our agenda this morning is resolution number 2021-0006, assessed taxable valuation of utility companies. It should be noted that these assessments and valuations come from the Department of Revenue, not the local county assessor. Entertain motions in accepting or adopting these assessed valuations.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to adopt resolution number 2021-0006, assessed taxable values of utility companies.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2021-0006, assessed taxable valuations of utility companies. Any further discussion?
No, sir.
There being none, roll call vote, please.
Patton,
Yes.
Slosik,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. For item number 9 on our agenda today, I need to ask the Vice Chair, Bill Patton, to take the meeting over because this item is a personal item that affects both my wife and myself. So I need to step aside as a county supervisor at this point. Just be Dave.
Okay. All right.
Okay, and item number 9, this is to accept deed and property at 107 South First Avenue, Marshalltown, Iowa. Discussion and possible action to accept deed and property from David and Kathy Thompson David and Kathy Thompson are donating the property at 107 South First Avenue, Marshalltown, Iowa, which is in the north section of the old fire station to Marshall County. Before we get into it, we were given the deeds and the survey. I think we have all read through them. Were there any questions in reading this? Okay, it's all pretty straightforward. More than one legal person has looked at these things, and so I think we're good to go here. So the chair would accept a motion.
Mr. Vice Chair, I would make a motion to adopt, to accept the deed and property from David and Kathy Thompson located at 107 South First Avenue, Marshalltown, Iowa, north section of the old fire station.
Pardon me, my phone was ringing in my ears. I would second this. Are there any questions?
No, I guess not.
Only comment I have to make is we had a few things on the deed that are very easy on agreements. The survey has been done and filed. We're also having the abstract broken down so that the county will have an abstract all by themselves just for that section. When we got the abstract back from the abstract company, they did not separate them out, so we gave them back and asked them to create two separate abstracts, one for which will be what the county has and one for which will be what Kathy and I are keeping. And when we get that back from the abstract company, we will forward that on to the county.
Okay. Obviously, these being legal documents will be recorded. They're open to the public. Anyone who is interested can read through them. I wasn't going to read through them today, but in summary, it's a gift. It's a gift. No money involved. We as the county gets the north part of the old fire station. We can remodel that however we wish. When we're done with it, it goes back to the original owner. Determined people.
Yeah. I believe there was $1 that was involved in this.
For the transaction to be
Yeah.
legal, there has to be $1.
Thank you.
And Nan, your question the other day, we actually did cash the check.
And you need to.
So
It's a big deal.
so
It's
a big deal.
lot of administrative work for my accounting department.
Yep, it's now perfectly done. We cashed the $1 check.
That was for the rent. Now, do we have to pay $1?
No,
Okay, the
Not
dollar
on the
was for the rent.
it was for the lease.
Okay, yes. That's to make insurance legal.
I will say we have started the process of splitting off the two buildings physically, what is required by building code. We've been in contacts and we've gone through the planning stages of splitting the two buildings and how we are going to lay out the building that we will own post this process. And at this point, the plan is to have the south half of the north building on the first floor be an election center for NAN, so we can clear some room out of the courthouse, save room in the courthouse. And then the north half of it will be the buildings and ground shop, which we are not rebuilding, that is east of the courthouse. The only other comment I had was, we haven't split utilities yet. My thought was that we would just pay the utilities until we can get them split off. Dave's half of the building hardly uses anything. And it's just we're not at a point yet to be able to split the utilities. There's still quite a bit of work to be done there. So I would recommend that we just pay for the minimal utilities on the south half of the, or what used to be the south half of the building until we can get it split.
Okay, we have not voted, is that correct?
Correct.
The phone was ringing in my ears so many times here, I got to thinking maybe we did, or did, but, if there are no more questions, comments,
Can I make a comment?
it's time.
It's time.
Yeah.
Well, again, I know we thanked you before for this gift, but think about the timing on this, how perfect the timing is that this is happening now. We had to make major decisions on our maintenance shop building here, and this is just gelled together so perfectly well that
It worked out very nice. It gave us an opportunity to acquire a building from the city that, had not seen its end of life. And it gave the ability for a win-win situation for several different parties to repurpose it. It's going to free up a lot of space within the courthouse to get the election storage out, give a permanent home for elections. With the county shops downtown being destroyed with the tornado,
It's a big upgrade
it
for us.
gives a huge upgrade there. Gives us the ability county-wise to use the proceeds from the shop and plug them into proceeds on restructuring the courthouse facility. So this is one of those things that's really pleasurable because it's a win-win for all parties involved, including us. It gives us a good ability to expand in the future and control the land that borders ours, and expand our shop and expand our storage. And it's just out of a bad situation came a good thing.
And its location worked out
For everyone.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
everyone, yeah.
Yeah.
So. Roll call vote, please.
Patton,
Yes.
Solosik.
yes.
Thompson.
Abstain.
Okay, motion is passed. Thank you again.
Yes.
I will
You're
return. Chairmanship. Back to
Okay.
you, Mr. Thompson.
On to item number 10. We've discussed this several times these last few months with the ongoing changes and dates on the coronavirus policy. This is for discussion and possible action to approve another revised corona policy. You want to bring us up to speed on this one?
Yes, we did a lot of work when this was originally written. One of the attorneys, Ann Schmusik at Ehlers and Cooney, sent this out to all the counties, and that's kind of where our first draft came from, which was really long. And some of the things really aren't as applicable now, so we took some pieces out of it. And so we were able to shorten it up, even though it's still kind of a long policy. Now, one of the things I know, we discussed this on December 8th. And as I looked back over the policy over this past weekend, I noticed that we did not make one change that we had discussed. Currently, it says if you travel on an airplane, that you will quarantine. The conversation that day is if you traveled on an airplane inside of the US, it was okay. If you went out of the country, you would need to quarantine. So I just wanted to get clarification. Obviously, we can make that correction to the policy and you can still approve it, but I want to make sure that we have it correctly and the way you all want it. So that would just be the only topic of whether, if I'm going to fly to Arizona to spend time with my family, or I'm flying to, which I don't even know if you can, I know you can't fly into Canada, London, it's different.
Yeah, they don't like you over there.
Well, and it's also, what do you do? you know,
That's the real issue.
that's the real issue. I feel like I've heard several people that have been on planes saying they're everything at an airport and the plane is cleaner than they've ever seen it before. And you know, that part of the trip, I think is fairly safe. Now, you know, you've seen some lines and some things around the holidays that looked a little crazy, but most of the people there you've seen with masks on and, you know, trying to, you know, be safe. They're requiring masks on the planes. I haven't heard of any airlines that aren't requiring that.
Some airlines are still having the middle seat
Mhm.
and some aren't.
And it kind of depends, you know, if my husband and I traveled together, that wouldn't matter.
Put him in the middle.
Yeah, I don't like the middle seat.
So,
But yeah, it just, that's the only thing is I reread it over the weekend. We didn't update that. The way our discussion went on December 8th, and we can sure change it that air flight outside of the US would need to quarantine.
That's my thought. That's my feeling, as long as it's within the country.
I'm fine with it, but once again, it gets back to what people do once they get off that plane. That's where I think the real exposure is. Obviously, if they're going to an environment where it's close family, it's going to limit that exposure, but at the same time, going to the grocery store. Yeah, going to your local stores. There's no more or less exposure there than there is here. I'd personally would be fine just restricting it if it goes out of country that, yeah, they got to quarantine.
so let me get it straight though. The way it's written right now, it's just out of the country.
No, it says if you get on an airplane.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
We did not write it the way the notes told us to. I missed that. And I wanted to, you know, tell you that, and we can sure add that sentence, out of country air travel. That's all we'd have to do
Well,
to
we want
change.
to put that in motion.
Yes, yes. Mhm.
If we approve this, then I would move to approve it with the change of airplane status being only out of the country.
Airplane travel out of country. Okay.
And I would second.
Okay,
I guess I moved to approve this with that change, with that amendment.
that's the way I heard it.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the revised coronavirus policy. And the change is to change the status for air travel out of the country. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? Okay, there being none, roll call vote, please.
Patton,
Yes.
Solosik,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, we're on to a resolution number 2021-0007. This is a resolution of our general obligation capital loan notes, fixing the date for a meeting on the proposal to authorize the loan agreement not to exceed $5,250,000. And I'm not going to read this entire resolution unless you think it's necessary. I think once we got the total amount in there, that we should be fine.
And let's review again what all it's going to do.
Okay, this is going to be for the radio towers and also any additional funding that we may need for the difference between what insurance is going to cover and what we are going to need to do for upgrades to the courthouse. We have not set the term yet or the interest rate. That'll come when we get our proposals from the different financial institutions. This is just authorizing us to borrow up to $5 $5,250,000 for those purposes.
Also the radios.
The radio towers.
The radios
Oh,
themselves for
for
the
the-
fire department.
And the radios for the fire department, that is,
That's a flow through.
that's a flow through. The all costs involved to any of the fire districts, they will pay for their own radios, their own pagers, and any interest expense that would be applicable to any loan that they would take to assist them in purchasing their equipment.
And please note the amount is high
Yes,
because we can always
We don't know.
borrow less. We can't do more without going through the whole process again.
I don't anticipate us using all of this, but we can always do less, but we can't do more once we authorize it
It's easy to pay it back when you don't use it.
real quick.
On page 9, then we would put in today's date.
Yes,
Yes, when it's signed by the chairman.
Okay, he can do that at that
Yeah.
time.
did I miss anything?
I think so, just,
Okay.
yeah, that's perfect.
We're ready for a motion on this.
We are.
I would make the motion then to adopt resolution number 2021-0007 to fix the date for a meeting on the proposition to authorize a loan agreement and the issuance of notes to evidence the obligations of the county thereunder to January 19th, 2021 at 9:05 a.m.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2021-0007 to fix the date for a meeting on the proposition to authorize a loan agreement and the issuance of notes to evidence the obligations of the county thereunder to January 19th, 2021 at 9:05 a.m. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Patton,
Yes.
Salasser,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes, motion carried. Okay. Along with the same thing, we have to go to item 12 on our agenda this morning, which is to engage the bond council with Allers and Cooney. This is an engagement authorizing us to be represented in the general obligation loan by Allers and Cooney. Have you gentlemen had an opportunity to look this over? It's pretty lengthy. Generally, anything we get from an attorney, what we can say in 2 words, they managed to get into 11 pages.
It's long.
It is, yeah.
I'll get to the meat of it real quick. It's for the $5,250,000 general obligation capital and notes that they estimate their fee for the bond council services will not exceed $16,100. And if they have to do any incidental overnight charges and traveling, that those charges would not exceed $750. And I really don't see any need where they're gonna have to do that, but they've got it in here anyway, so it is what it is. Other than that, it's billings that we will pay them within 30 days. That's pretty much it.
It's just really long.
It is really long. It's just, I opened that and I'm going, you're kidding me. We could do this in 2 sentences.
Well, I really wanted to make the whole, fixing the date of the hearing. The last time we did this, we just fixed the date. But then we had, this one, we had a 2-page resolution too.
Well, on item number 12, then I would move to approve the bond council engagement agreement, general obligation capital loan with Ahlers and Cooney.
And I will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the bond council engagement agreement, general obligation capital loan with Allers and Cooney. Any further discussion? Okay. There being none, roll call vote, please.
Patton,
Yes.
Solosik,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Okay, on to item 13. We're going to go back to Paul Geilenfeld, our county engineer. This is the county engineer's office to request and to approve the purchase of a 3/4 ton pickup truck. Discussion and possible action regarding the purchase of a 3/4 ton pickup truck. Paul?
Yeah, well, and then in the strange times of 2020, we're trying to replace the maintenance superintendent's pickup, and the automakers are having trouble with capacity, and there isn't as much inventory out there as there has been in previous years. And what I would like to get is just permission from the board to act on a vehicle if we happen to find a 3/4 ton that meets our specifications in a dealer's inventory, because it is not common for dealers to hold anything that's on their lot. And so there's been a couple that would have worked that we missed before we were able to make contact with anybody, and it was but it's a tough time of the year to get a truck. We're hoping that we could still find something in inventory, but there's a real chance that it ends up not happening, and that we would just make an order, and then that would be a 2021 truck. So I would like to just get permission from the board that if I can find a truck in inventory and I spend no more than, I'm saying $54,000 just to stay into my equipment budget, that I would be able to just act on that and secure that truck. And there isn't a specific truck that I can talk about right now, as far as there's been a couple. I was looking at a dealer in one even in Iowa City and one in Newton, and there's a couple others that just don't have any inventory right now that we haven't contacted. But what I'll do is I'll reach out to dealers that they have incoming vehicles, and someone might have one that meets our specs. If it goes to an order, I would bring that back to the board and act like I normally would with a equipment purchase.
If at all possible, I'd like to do whatever we can to keep the business within Marshall County.
Yes, I will reach out to our local dealer. Our intent right now is to purchase a Ram, just because of the configuration of the options, and namely the Ram box storage that they have in the sides of the box. The other makes don't offer a competitive item like that.
I'll entertain motions unless you guys want to discuss this further.
Nope.
I don't.
Go ahead.
I'd make a motion to approve the purchase of a 3/4 ton pickup truck for secondary roads.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the purchase of a 3/4 ton pickup truck for secondary roads. County engineer. Without further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Patton,
Yes.
Solosik,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Motion carries. Now we're on to a discussion item only. Item number 14, which is financing security vendor with Marshall County, Iowa, like to use for the Marshall County radio project and construction expense on county buildings following the 2018 tornado.
So this is the item we approved earlier for going for the public meeting on the 19th, but the question is kind of what direction we want to go. If we want to work with a registered security company, or if we want to attempt to go to a local bank, and one local bank would have to kind of either fund the entire thing, or kind of do it as a group effort. We all own banks, and I'll be in charge, and you two, we all come in together and kind of do it as a group project. We can attempt to do that. What we kind of seen when we looked just previously a little earlier, we were about 4 points different in market rate. So just kind of wanting to get some direction on, this is not my forte by any means. And it's not really something I don't think that, and I think Jarrett's on as well.
I asked Jared about if he would be willing or interested or have the ability to do this, and he was a little uncomfortable with being a part of that. Jared, are you there?
Yes. Yeah, I am. I think more if it was us piecing it out ourselves, because when you're doing up to 5 million, a lot of times these banks don't want to take on the whole thing. And so would we as a county be the ones to piece it out? First of all, I don't think we legally can do that, but what we can do is have, if we want to go the local route first, we pick a local bank and have them, we draw the terms up for them. And I would say if they're within range of the market, that's great. They'd be able to do it all themselves, or they have the ability to purchase the securities to piece it out amongst other banks, but they'd kind of be all housed under that bank. I'd say if they're unable to hit the market, if we're right now at today's rates, we're roughly 0.1%. It can cost us in the long run of this borrowing roughly $36,000. And so we want to be as close to that market as possible so we can get our best bang for our buck. At the same time, if we can get our local banks to a local bank to be in that range, this is a win-win for everybody. And so in the end, I think if we don't have our local bank be able to be within that market that you guys feel comfortable as a board, I would recommend that we go through a registered security. And then what they do at that point is they would go out to bid to all banks with our local banks first in seeing if they are able to bid at the market rate. And they piece it out. So it could be one of our local banks would only want $500,000 of that. They could do it through that process. And then in the end, the local banks have that first opportunity to hit the market. If they do not participate, then we would have other banks across the state that would be able to take on that debt for us. And so that would be my recommendations if we want to do something first with a local bank, see if they're within the market, and then use a registered security if they're not.
I thought from our earlier conversation, we wanted to try the bank.
The locals.
Yes.
Yep.
I would further like to continue trying that.
Well, and one of the things is, as Jarrett kind of said, and it probably is when I listened to Jeff multiple times, it started to sink in. Let's say we had just local banks that only wanted to do 2 million. So that wouldn't get us all the way. If we went with something like Northland, any registered security, they can start, and that 2 million can still go to those local banks, and then the remainder can go outside of that area. So if we don't get the entire amount, they can still pick up just a piece of it, which is a win-win to having the local banks participate.
I think I would agree with that. Yeah.
And again, this is for discussion only.
Right. It's just for us to get some direction.
Just to wrap our hands around this, I would really, 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 if at all possible, like to keep all the financing within banking institutions within Marshall County. It's the old adage, shop local, the job you save could be your own. There's, I think, a lot of pent up demand for the dollars that the banks that are sitting on right now. And would love to see that. At the same time, if Jared or if a few phone calls are made and we find out that they are not interested in it, then we're going to have to go down a different road.
And we can't let it drag on and on.
No. I'd say this is something we
can.
can probably come up with in a very, very short period of time, just with some phone calls.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that helps us. That helps us know what direction to go and start working kind of down that route and see who's interested. And
also, is there a point person? Would it be you, Dave, for us to get with? because Nan and I working on this, we're going to need to kind of hone in on the terms, the length that we're looking at. I mean, there's tons of variables that you can do on these when you're dealing with a local bank. If you want to do construction period, because I know you mentioned about doing a drawdown loan first. If that's an option, we need to lock in on what we're wanting for terms when we go to these banks.
I think our thoughts and our discussions from earlier meetings was get the rate set and draw it down as needed, because there's so many different variables on what we are going to need. We don't have an answer from all of the entities that may be borrowing for radios. There could be up to 12. How many have we heard from so far? 2?
I've heard from 3.
3.
2 are no's.
Okay.
And the one is, their amount is 45,000. They don't think they'll need it all, but they could need some. And the budget process here will be gaining some information here in the next, couple months.
So we really don't have hardly any demand to assist the departments with radios at this time. We've also got our thoughts on what we can do internally as far as funding goes with our budgets. I'd like to go the drawdown route.
Oh, yeah.
If you can lock in the rate.
If we can lock in the rate.
I think that's the issue.
If you can't, Jarrett can probably invest it too and earn half of what we're paying.
True.
There's.
Once we get to the net of what our true expenses are going to
Right.
be, it's a pretty easy decision.
Mm-hmm.
It never works out as great as you hoped it would when
No.
you reinvest it.
Well, everyone always says you can be about the same, and so my half
Probably pretty accurate.
is,
Yeah, I
and
think so.
and because you're dealing with big numbers, the amount of my half, I'd get 10% of the amount when you deal with a small number. But when you're dealing with the big numbers like this, you can get a little bit of rate.
Yeah.
Okay. that
Yeah, as an
helps us.
example, I believe 2 weeks ago, market was roughly 0.6 on the 5-year with a 1-year build out. And our money markets were getting in the range of between 0.4 and 0.5. So you're looking at that differences of roughly at a tenth. So we can get an idea of what the drawdowns are that are locked in, and then we'll compare it to the separate loan that's not a drawdown. We can get a comparison of what those rates are, see how you feel comfortable with that as a board, and then we'll just go from there in comparison to the market and decide how to proceed at that point. Which you're right, this should just take a few phone calls. We may have some follow-ups with you on some to nail down some specific terms within this from the banks, but we can get something for you.
Good. Anything else?
No, I think that's
Okay.
good.
I think
discussion.
we've
That's perfect. Yes.
got
thanks.
that done. Let's move on to item 15. This is the Emergency Management Commission. Kim Elder will be giving us her department head budget. And I'd like everybody out there in the public to keep in mind that this is a separate budget that is put together by commission, and it's a flow through that goes through the county budget.
Morning, can you hear me okay?
Good morning, yes.
Good. Yeah, so my budget is pretty simple. Like you said, emergency management is an entity all on its own in Iowa. So it is a separate budget, but pretty simple. 2.5 years ago, it changed a little bit from going to from a basic budget to running the Marshall County Communications Commission salaries and benefits through a line item. Basically, it's a item in, item out type, but that did increase the budget to about last year it was $1.5 million. So it did look like it increased a lot, but that is why, just for those that are curious about that. It's just the way that the code is written, it makes it easier to run it through my budget as one line item. Like I said, one item into revenues and one item out on expenditures. So this year, that number for Communications Commission is proposed at 1.3 million. So taking that into consideration, most of the rest of my budget remains pretty level. I try to keep it as basic as I can. The only major change this year was that we used some CARES funding and a little bit of reserve to do some upgrades because our emergency operations center, just like what you're seeing here with the Board of Supervisors, we have to do things virtually as much as possible. And that being said, it's much easier to have the equipment and audio, visual, things like that upgraded now using CARES funding. And so I applied for an emergency performance grant, emergency management performance grant, supplemental grant this year, which was through the state of Iowa and some of their CARES funding, and was able to apply that plus a little bit from the CARES funding at the county level to help supplement a major upgrade in our Emergency Operations Center, which is located on the 3rd floor of the Sheriff's Office. It's also used in daily operations for training and other meetings. So it's not just during a disaster or an event, but it is used by many of the staff of not only Sheriff's Office, but the Communications Commission meets there. We do a lot of training for a variety of different county entities. So that being said, again, I put as much as I could in from grants and then took a little bit out of my budget that I had in reserve for upgrades. And we have a $45,000 upgrade going to be put into that, that training room. So that'll be really nice. Over the years, I've worked with IT, IS to get what we could for equipment, but as everybody knows, things outdate and are not compatible with each other by the time you buy them. So we'd buy one piece and buy another piece, and so over the years we've had a lot of good pieces of equipment, but they don't all talk to each other. So this will do one complete sweep, so we can get all those things working together. So I guess that's the biggest thing I've seen this year that will not affect next year's, other than it'll take a little bit of the reserves out. Our budget hearing will be this Thursday following the 5:30 911 board budget hearing. And then it'll be the 6 o'clock budget hearing for the Emergency Management Commission. For those that aren't familiar with the Emergency Management Commission, if you're maybe on the call and new, that's comprised of the mayor from each city within the county, one board of supervisor, and the sheriff. So that's what makes up the commission. And I just letting everybody know it's really important for those mayors to sit in on those, the 911, the Communications Commission, and the Emergency Management Commission. We all meet at the same night. Makes for a little longer evening, but we get all three done at the same time because many of those members are all the same. So it seems to work really well. And a lot of our mission is the same. So it gets a lot of that taken care of in one evening. I don't see a lot of changes on here. Do you have any questions on any numbers or anything that that I can answer questions on for the board?
I don't have anything, no.
No.
So the board
It's
does, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Get it off to Mary, and we'll include it in the flow through in the county budget, and we can go from there.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, there's, other than the assessment that goes out to each city, there's an assessment that goes out to the county. There's a little increase on that each year, proposed at 4% this year. And then the other line items that come through the county for hazmat funding is remained the same since I've been here, so it's not increased at all. That's just something we keep in there for compliancy and training. And so, yeah, pretty simple.
Kim, how much is the county assessment? Do you have
County
that there or
assessment
not?
for hazmat is 35,000.
Okay, Dave hit it on the head here, so.
Yep, that
Thank you.
hazmat levy, yep, it stays pretty stagnant. And then the county, I'm trying to run down the county assessment itself looks like 24,848. That's the assessment like all the other cities get, which is just proposed at, that was the proposed plus the 4% there.
Okay. I don't have any other questions unless you gentlemen do.
Nope.
Thank you as always.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Betcha.
Yeah.
Have a wonderful day. Okay, next item on our agenda is public forum, item number 16. This is a time set aside for public to make comments on topics of county business other than those listed on this agenda. No action will be taken on any of these topics brought up in public forum. Here's your chance. Nothing?
Nothing from me.
Okay,
I don't see anybody jumping on.
nobody's jumping in.
Nobody's unmuting, so.
Nope. Okay, we'll go on to item 17 on our agenda. The next regular session is January 19th, 2021 at 9:05 a.m. All business to be acted upon at that session should be submitted to the county auditor and recorder's office or the Board of Supervisors office by Thursday, January 14th, 2021 at 1 p.m. There being no further business to come before the board, this meeting is adjourned at 9:56.